Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Red Text Podcast. I'm your co-host Rai, aka the Mestizo Mystic.
And I'm your other co-host, and my name is Voga, and I am Voga Illumisante de Vil.
And how are you doing today?
You know what? I don't know. I didn't really think about our check-in today. I usually do think about our check-in before, just so I have something to say. I don't know. It was such a normal week. Like, there was nothing, I guess, substantial or anything like noteworthy. Since I last spoke to you, yeah, I'm trying to think of actually something that I've gotten into the habit of doing because I'm just so one, irresponsible, two, lazy. Is I've gotten into the habit of doing like the rosary that's like a recorded rosary instead of me doing the rosary myself. Like, I'll just have like a recording of a rosary like in my headphones while I'm like doing my documentation at least once a day. Today I did it during lunchtime, and that was really nice. That was a really nice way to spend my lunch. Was to have a rosary going in my ear. That was really nice. So I've gotten into the habit of kind of incorporating the rosary more often. If I'm not able to do it myself, I'll go on YouTube and just like search the rosary for that day. So that's what I did today. That's something that I think is I think a really cool tip. And I didn't have my rosary on me because I left it in my car, so I used my knuckles to count. So that's also another tip that I picked up from forgetting my rosary. I use my knuckles to count the mysteries when I'm praying the rosary. So yeah, so that's just something. I'm doing okay. Like, I don't really feel good. I mean, I do feel good. Like, there's nothing. I just don't feel like there's nothing special. It's just a day. I'm still in the process of like organizing and cleaning. It was a very long editing week for me. Because I had to, we started recording the red text, so I was recording the red text, and then I had a couple of videos to edit for Frankie. So a lot of editing for me. I think I wanted to use this week to actually plan out my own content, but I haven't gotten a chance to do that yet. I want to get back into doing my makeup videos again on Instagram, but God, it takes so much work and so much time to produce those videos. So I don't know. It's just a week. It's just one of those weeks. Nothing crazy. Oh yeah.
But your
that's
birthday
true.
passed,
My
right?
birthday
Didn't you
passed,
do
and
stuff for your birthday?
I totally forgot about it until you just mentioned it. I had a wonderful weekend. I guess I'm just like kind of like focused on today because today was such a normal day. I had a fabulous weekend. Oh my God! Thank you so much for reminding me. Um, yes, my birthday just passed. And it was great. I had something to do every single day, which was fabulous. Um, I had like a really cute little game night with my best friends at their apartment, and we were there for till like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not one to like go big on my birthday. I like celebrating other people's birthdays really big and extravagant, but my birthday I like to keep it really simple. Um, for some reason, like around my birthday, I don't like spending money, so I like to keep it really simple around my birthday. So we had like a little game night at my friend's house. We brought board games, so we played a whole bunch of that. We played Spoons, which is so much fun. I forgot how much fun Spoons is, but I fucking love that game. And I'm also a juggernaut at fucking Pictionary. Just to let you know, I'm very, very good. I'm so good at it, and I love Pictionary so much. And one of my best friends, Bianna, also loves Pictionary so much.
I love
And we're like an
Pictionary.
undefeated team. And because we're so good at it, it makes our friends hate the game because like they're bitter and not as good. But I ate my words this weekend because they actually beat us, so we're no longer undefeated, which is, I know it's very unfortunate, but that's okay. We can let them have a couple. Um but yeah, it was a great weekend. I spent Saturday with my family, and then I went to hang out with Adrian on Sunday. So it was a wonderful weekend of celebrating my birthday. It was really, really. Oh, and then Franny and Jeff, they took me to one of my favorite restaurants in downtown. It's called Perch. It's like a rooftop restaurant and bar. I had lunch there. It was really glamorous. It was very my birthday this year. The way that folks wanted to celebrate my birthday this year was very much my style. It was like very simple, but also very glamorous. It was everything that I asked for and everything I would ever want. So I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, my 30s are going. I'm enjoying my 30s. We're heading into the mid 30s now, and I'm enjoying it so far. I I heard going into your 30s was going to be a really good time. Like your 30s is kind of like the new 20s. Like it's kind of like your 20s where you're young enough to like still be young, but like old enough to know better, you know, and also you have money. So it's like it's not like being in your 20s where you're just like broke but also having a good time. But I heard your 40s are supposed to be absolutely incredible. So I'm not super, you know, like I'm excited to like get older. I'm excited for my 40s. Like that's something that I never ever thought I would ever thought, because I was terrified of turning 30, and once I turned 30 I was like, this is awesome. Like I love being in my 30s. And you're almost there. So if there's anything that I could tell folks going into your 30s, it's I mean, it's everything that you would make it, right? But so far I'm having a great time. You're so much more self-aware. You don't care as much, you know, about things that don't matter anymore. I mean, that's just my personal experience, but like once you stop caring, life is just so much better. It's so much easier. And I've learned that not caring and being just slightly detached just is so much more enlightening, and you'll find a lot of peace in that. So any advice for anyone who's gonna kind of like creeping into their 30s? Be slightly detached. But yeah,
I was like, you're leaving
actually had a
such a
great. I
big
can't
piece of
believe I forgot that it
information
was
out
my
for
birthday this
someone
past weekend. But
with
yeah,
such
I
a,
had
a
a.
boring week.
I know. I mean, it's Wednesday today, so maybe that's why. Like, just the last 3 days have been just so mundane. Maybe that's why I just didn't think it didn't occur to me. You know. But yeah, I had a great weekend. So thank you for reminding me.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
happy
I
birthday
feel
to you.
like your 30s are so dependent on like how you handle your Saturn return in your late 20s. Like, because I agree, like, I feel like I'm going to be a lot more self aware in my 30s, even though I'm extremely self aware now, especially, becoming a therapist. It's like a requirement. And I can only imagine, like, what the 30s are like when you've already, like, had that growth and, like, kind of know who you are. And it makes sense that if you have that level of self awareness and evolve to that level, that it's easier to, like you say, detach and not really give a fuck about what people think, because you're already past that point of, like, I know who I am, at least like for the most part, and don't need other people's like definitions of me to help me figure out who I am. So I can
Mm-hmm.
definitely see that. I'm excited for my 30s for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You should be, because it's gonna be a really great time. And I mean, this is a good example of like not giving a shit. Um, something I wanted to bring up before we do your check-in is that we got a comment on one of our videos on YouTube a while ago, and I haven't checked the comments on YouTube in a very long time. I think it was like almost a month ago we got a comment on Francisco's episode on Brujeria. And the comment was like we made a comment about like if you're white, if you're straight, if you're a man, then like what do you need magic for? Something like that, something along those lines. Like when you come from a place of privilege, like what do you need magic for? And this comment was, I'll send it to you. I'll take a screenshot and send it to you. But it's like it said something. I was like, coming from a white straight man, I was like, oh, here we go. You know, like it went all like into this whole thing about like you don't know where people's struggles lie, you don't know what people are going through. I thought there was this part is what really sent me over the edge when they were like I thought being part of the LGBTQIA community means that you were more inclusive, but I guess that's not the case when it comes to magic. And let me just say something. Oh, and then they also mentioned something about like how like when you have a platform, when you have a public forum, you have to hold yourself at a like at a level as of being like a teacher. And I was like, I need to mention this in the next episode because I want to clarify something. One, we have said it before and we will say it again. Rye and I have never claimed to be teachers on this platform. We never claimed to be teaching you anything in regards to how to practice magic, what magic is. We are only here to talk to each other, share our perspectives, and whatever you take from it, whether it be advice or practice or praxis, then that's up to you. That's up to your discretion. We're not here to teach at you. We're just here to share experiences. Two, I don't care. It's an opinion that we had. It was a discussion that we brought up. We are three brown queer people who were having a discussion, and it was an opinion that we had. I don't care if you disagree. I couldn't care less. What I believe is what I believe. One of my best friends, who is Cody, his name he's a white man. He's a straight white man. And he is one of the most successful practitioners I know, one of the most successful ritualistic sorcerers I know. The question or the discussion had nothing to do with whether you're able to use magic or whether magic should be gatekept from you because you come from a place of privilege. The question was why? And I understand there are people who experience hardships in their life and they're entitled to. Everyone is entitled to magic. Everyone's entitled to learn how to do magic. The question wasn't if, the question was why. And that was between three queer people of color. I don't care. And you are very free to put your opinion on that forum because it is a forum. The comment section on YouTube is a public forum that you are free to post whatever you fucking want. But I sent a rebuttal. Because I'm also free to do that because this is my platform. So all I sent was, it seems like the call is coming from inside the house. And I cannot tell, like I knew what the reaction was going to be, but they were like, was that supposed to mean something? Was that supposed to be clever? And they went on this whole thing with this whole rant, and it just made me giggle because I was like, you're so pressed. Like you're so pressed. You have this opinion of us because we believe a certain thing. We have an opinion about a certain very small, one aspect of magic. And you're pressed with us. You came on our platform and decided to say whatever you had to say. So it goes back to like, if this was like 5 or 7 years ago, I would have been like, fuck you, dude. Like, fuck you. Like, honestly, I really like fuck you. Like you're a piece of shit. Honestly, this is a reaction I would expect out of like a straight white male, right? Generally speaking. But I don't care. I don't care, and I feel so at peace because of it. I know that you're all entitled to your opinions. I'm entitled to my own opinion, but I don't care about it. I don't care that you have an opinion. I don't care if your opinion opposes mine or is the same as mine. If they're the same as mine, then great. If they aren't the same as mine, then it doesn't necessarily mean that you and I can't get along. Like, you and I can still have a conversation. It's not like I just don't care. I don't even know why I got on that soapbox, but I'm just saying, like, that was something that happened recently. So
Yeah, I mean, you were saying you want to bring it up in the next episode to address, what we had actually said in that episode with Franny. And see, like, my therapist, like, part of me wants to jump out when I hear things like that because I'm so curious as to what is being triggered within them to cause that type of reaction, to cause those type of questions and responses and reactions from them. Because clearly something we said that in that episode along the lines of what you brought in, like, touched something in them. It triggered something in them, like part of their own shadow aspect, right? And so I'm just curious as to, like, what that is and where that's all coming from. I'm not going to expend the time and energy to find that out, but I hold that curiosity of, like, what's going on with you that, like, you're feeling so pressed enough to engage online about this opinion of yours.
I mean,
But I also know,
you
like,
have the right to. You're allowed to do it, but, like, why?
yeah,
Why?
yeah, yeah. My form of not caring in certain instances nowadays is just not expending the time to, like, even react in a comment. And, like, I have a prime example of this recently on Instagram. I forgot what page, but at this page I follow shared a post of how this gun company made, like, a Barbie themed gun, like, marketed towards children. And I made a comment on it that went and popped off. It has like 2,400 likes or whatever. And I had said, like, oh, and these are the same people who say, like, drag queens are dangerous to kids. And everyone commenting, replying to that was, like, agreeing, except one person who was like, they both are. And I'm like, you are too fucking ignorant to even warrant a snarky reply from me. Like, I was typing something out and I'm like, you know what? No. Like, if your head is so far up your ass that you can't uh, differentiate the danger of guns and the hypothetical danger of drag queens to children, or which one's more dangerous than the other, not that drag queens are dangerous to kids at all, like, your head's too far up your ass that, like, nothing I say is going to affect you.
You're
So why am I
100
even
exactly.
gonna waste my time and energy? Because, like, I got
Because
heated for
it's
a second.
fun. It's just fun to play sometimes.
It
And I'm
is.
going to say that honestly. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun to play. It's really fun to poke the bear sometimes because, like, I'm not here to hold you accountable because there's no changing your mind. I can't. Some people are just the way they are, and I've accepted that. I've accepted the fact that there are people like you guys. I grew up around narcissists, and I tried my entire life to try to change these people. Like, these are family members, but there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about folks like that. But, like, one of his points, one of his quote, if you're not watching the video version of this episode, quote unquote points was, why don't you hang on, how about using your platform to contribute to the occult culture instead of making it all about politics and hatred? First of all, and I commented on that too. I said witchcraft is inherently political.
And so is queerness.
So you, first of all, our podcast is not centered around politics and hatred. But in regards to magic and being queer, you're 100% right. It is all inherently political. And if you disagree with that, that's not a fact. That's an opinion. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Also, you don't have to consume our content. Go away. We won't miss you. We are not making money off of this. This is something that we do out of passion. Like, we're not going to miss your coin because you're not paying us to do it. Go away. Like, you act like the way that you respond to our content is as if you're paying us to make it. You're not paying us to do anything. Go away.
And even if they were, I mean, we'd still be making money from other shit. Like that's just one. That would be hypothetically one person. So in the grand scheme of shit, that wouldn't.
Listen, if someone is paying me to make this content and acts like that, I quit. Like I'm not I'm not dealing with that. I make so much more going to the clinic and treating my patients than, for someone to badmouth me like that. Like, come on, get out of here. First of all, I'm not against white men. I mean, that's not true. That's not all the way true. But you know what I mean?
Hmm, hmm.
It's circumstantial. But anyways, how are you? Let's get into your check-in. How are you?
Yeah, I'm health wise, I'm like but everything else is pretty good. I've been dealing with this like weird stomach bug virus thing for like going on 2 weeks now. I've barely had an appetite. I hardly eat like one meal a day, and I know this is unhealthy, but I will say I've definitely like shed some pounds and feeling like a skinny queen. So that was a cute hack that I didn't need Ozempic for. But also I miss food, and I don't know why I don't have an appetite. Um, yeah,
You gotta
that's been
stop eating
shitty.
ass. There was a thing on TikTok that I saw those two gay scientists, I don't know what their names are, who said that folks in the queer community are more likely to contract this very specific bacteria that you get from anal glands. So, and it presents
Hmm,
itself like food poisoning.
hmm.
So, I want to throw that out there. So, okay, so continue with your disgusting disease.
Anyways, um, whatever the fuck is going on in my stomach aside, it's been good. I've been missing my classes because I've just been trying to give my body rest, and so I've slept through a couple of my classes, and then I officially start working as a counselor, as a therapist this fall. So I'm super stoked for that because that was something I
Woohoo!
was.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I was stressing out over. I could have started in the spring, but it would have delayed my graduation. So thankfully, somewhere had positions open up, applied, interview went well. It was a 2 hour long interview, and it went really, really well. And so I didn't want to like expect to get the position, but like I felt really confident in it, and then I got it. So I'm really excited, and I'm gonna keep the demographics of who I'm working with, and obviously where I'm working with private. But I'm definitely excited with who I will be working with, demographic wise. And what else has been going on? I've been going to IKEA quite a bit. Before we started recording just now, I was struggling so much to get this shelf put together because I can't find my tape measure. I can't find the stud finder for the wall. So I was going off a good old pen and ruler trying to measure all this shit and put holes in my wall. It was stressful. It was stressful. And I haven't eaten anything today, so I was like shaking and getting angry. But it's up now. One out of two shelves is up now. Um, and then I rearranged my room, which is really nice. I love the new layout. I have like this foldable treadmill that for the longest time I just didn't use, and now I have, after rearranging space, where I just keep it permanently up now, so now I have no excuse to not use it for walking. Um, so yeah, I feel good about the rearrangement. Uh, the energy feels good. I'm gonna make a new altar soon to a particular planet slash spirit. I just need some extra materials. Um, what else have I been up to? I've been trying to figure out what I want to do for my birthday because it's next month. One idea I have, I just saw it's IG reel of this place in San Jose where you can make your own carpets. It's a tufting thing, a tufting workshop, uh, and it takes like 4 to 5 hours long, and it's like less than $300. But like they teach you how to do it and help you along the way, and for that amount of time, I think that's super affordable because I feel like you'd pay that much or more for a carpet, custom made online. So I think that'd be really fun. Another thing I saw was it's a mini golf experience combined with an escape room. I don't know how that works, but it sounds really fun because I love both mini golf and escape rooms, even if I suck at both. So trying to decide what I want to do and make sure friends can join because I want it to be financially accessible because obviously like dropping $300 to make a carpet is not always accessible. Or even just have people get together for food. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out something because I know I want to do something, and it doesn't need to be big. I just want to see the people I care about, which is really small. Ooh, something I did yesterday. My partner and I went to this fragrance store in the city, and they just opened up their second location, which is the one we went to. It's called Ministry of Scent, and they have a bunch of different niche and indie uh, perfumes and fragrances. And I haven't got a new fragrance in a while, and I really like I like a mix of things. But one of the realms of fragrance that I like are, I think it's pronounced oud. It's like OUD, um, and like a little bit of leather, things like that. And so I got this Italian perfume called, I just love it for its name. It's called Rose of Dangerous Flamenco. And it smells like rose and leather, maybe a bit of musk and a little bit of spice. And it just, I feel so good wearing it. It smells, oh, it smells so good. And it's like more concentrated than regular perfume. So it really lasts like fucking all day long. Um, but I want to go back and get a more like lighter, fruity, citrusy scent. Because this is definitely something I'll wear every day, but I feel like it's more suited for the evening or a night out on the town. And with summer coming, it'd be nice to have like a floral or citrusy scent. But anyways, great place. If you're ever in San Francisco, highly recommend it. People are super helpful there. You can also order shit online, but obviously they can help you figure out a fragrance in person. So that was really neat. That was my first time really like having like a tailored fragrance experience where they were just pulling a bunch of shit off the shelves based off of what I described and letting me try stuff. Um, so yeah, love this. I mean, it's a big ass bottle, and it was like $189, which I mean for a high end fragrance is really not that bad.
That's pretty kind of run of the mill because my Mugler, the oh, I don't have it on me right now. The Mugler perfume that I really really like, it's Angel. It's around that same price. So yeah, that's pretty typical. And that's custom to you. This one is, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I really like it. I already want to buy more. But and other than all that, nothing too much has really been going on. I don't have weekend plans. Actually, I do. We're celebrating my mom's birthday, so gonna get dinner. Um, I feel like I just remembered I was doing something on Sunday and now I forgot again. Anyways, that's what I've been up to. Nothing too wild, and wrapping up two of my summer classes over the next like 2 3 weeks. Um, yeah, just excited for I'm excited for this new series of topics that we're going to be talking about, that we're going to be able to break down and really like go into depth in each section. Um,
Starting today, actually.
Starting today, yeah. I mean, didn't we have a whole episode on the Rosary?
We did.
Okay, that's what I was that for season one?
No, it was this season.
Oh, okay. Um, but yeah, now we're going to go into each mystery, or at least set of mysteries of the Rosary. Um, and so today we're going to be covering the joyful ones, which I feel like is fitting for the energy of what we brought into our check-in today.
More
Um,
or less.
before we get into the joyful, yeah, before we get into the joyful mysteries, which set of mysteries are your favorite to pray or work with in general?
The sorrowful mysteries, because I have a very close relationship with Our Lady of Sorrows.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was gonna say same, but for some reason that doesn't fully resonate with me. I would say probably the
Glorious. I
glorious.
was gonna say it's probably the
Yeah,
for you. You're giving me like glorious girl. Yeah, you're like a
yeah,
glorious girly.
glorious girl, glorious girl. I don't really pray the luminous ones. Because obviously they're Jesus focused, and they focus on his miracles and certain things like that, which I think are pretty rad, especially when using it for like magical purposes. But I'm a Mary's girl, and so I like the mysteries that focus on Mary. And so the and one of my favorite mysteries in the Glorious is the descent of the Holy Spirit. So that's also uh in general one of my favorite sets of mysteries. But yeah, today we're going to be covering the joyful. We already have some book recommendations that we'll be talking about, and uh ways you can potentially use these mysteries in your practice if you pray the rosary, and scripture associated with it, and the fruits associated with each mystery. And of course, this doesn't mean you have to adhere to what we're going to share, but rather you can use it as a foundation to make praying these mysteries more intimate for yourself. And if you aren't ready to do that, you can use what we give you as a starting base.
Yeah, we're probably going to be referencing this book throughout the entire video and throughout the entire episode. Oh, fun thing that just as a note, if y'all have Spotify, we are going to be uploading our video episodes on Spotify. So if you wish to watch us and reference things on video, please get a Spotify account. It's free, and you can watch us on Spotify. But yeah, if y'all are watching this episode right now, we're going to be referencing this book, How to Pray the Rosary and Get Results. This book I bought on Amazon. It's pretty affordable, and I reference this all the time. I reference this a lot when we were doing when we still had a Patreon, and we were doing the Rosary Circles, because it goes pretty in depth in with all with all of the mysteries themselves, what they mean, what the spiritual fruit is, why we pray them, and what, how you should be praying them. So it's a really good resource for y'all if you want to pick this up. It's called it's right here, How to Pray the Rosary and Get Results. It's a fantastic resource.
By Brother. Some of his books are just under Brother, the letters ADA, and then this one's specifically under Brother Armatus Divino Auxilio. I don't know if I said that correctly. Another reason I like this book, which we probably talked about in the Rosary episode already, is a lot of people may pray the Rosary but not see their manifestation results come from it. And Brother ADA or Ada, whatever, before going into each set of the mysteries, like talks about why you may not be seeing the results of the Rosary, and he gives you this whole method of how to pray it. And what is it, he even has like an expanded Rosary method, and which makes it a bit longer to pray but is more so tailored to get more focused with your intention or petition that you're trying to manifest. Or I'm sorry, he brings all that information in after going over the Rosary mysteries, but super valuable resource whether or not you're a pro at the Rosary or just starting out. He has one other book called We Pray the Rosary, and it has the prayers both in Latin and English. So if you prefer to learn them in Latin, this is a great intro to this, or to the Rosary prayers in Latin. It also contains the spiritual fruits in the same book that we're going to be going over in the book We Pray the Rosary. Or you could always do what Voga did and just find a YouTube video and follow along, which may be accessible if you don't have any rosaries, or maybe you can't possess a rosary, depending on your living situation, or don't have access to one. So if you can't get these books, no big deal. If you can, awesome. I think he offers them as digital options on Amazon too, if I remember correctly, but these books are super, super thin, and I feel like they're each less than like $15. So pretty affordable. But yeah, let's get started with the joyful mysteries. Do you want to go into each one first, or do you want to go over like what the 5 mysteries are?
Yeah, why don't we just announce each mystery first and then go into each one individually? Yeah, why don't we just like announce them? We'll tell you guys what they are. Why don't we start with what the definition of the joyful mysteries are first, and then announce them, and then we'll kind of go deeper into each mystery throughout the episode. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. For those who may not be aware as well, like traditionally you pray a certain set of mysteries on certain days of the week. Of course, you don't have to adhere to that. I don't do that. I pray according to what I need or what I feel is right. But Brother Ada in the book says the joyful mysteries are traditionally prayed on Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays between Advent and the day before Ash Wednesday. What time are we in right now? Are we still in Eastertide? Or are we in ordinary time now?
We're in ordinary time because Easter is over. After Easter's over at Easter.
No, I think the day of Easter marks Easter season for 40 days, right?
I thought it was 40 days after. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because for me, it's Lent, 30 days, and then Easter. And then Easter just ends everything. That's how I do it.
That's what I thought. I'd have to look at the liturgical calendar because I don't fully remember. But while Voga does that, I'm trying to see if Brother Ada has an introduction to the joyful mysteries. So I'm just going to read kind of verbatim out of the book. The joyful mysteries highlight where is it? The joyful mysteries are analogous to the illuminative state of the spiritual life in which the mind becomes more enlightened as to spiritual things and the practice of virtue. In fact, the Rosary's mysteries are themselves an analogy for spiritual development, best understood when we put ourselves in the place of Mary's own journey, as she either watches or participates in these scenes in the life, death, and resurrection of her son. And so by putting ourselves in her vantage point, we can see how she became that example and then use that example to grow and mature as we walk our own respective paths. And that can be applied really to the entirety of the Rosary, just putting ourselves in Mary's shoes and trying to see from her position. But especially in the joyful mysteries, which we're going to go deeper into, starting with the Annunciation, um, is the first mystery of the joyful mysteries. Did you find
I
it, or
know
do you
it's
want me to go ahead?
April through May is Easter. Yeah, you're right. So it's February, March is Lent, April through May is Easter, and then June to December, or June through November is ordinary time.
Okay. So Easter time is the 40 days after Easter? Okay, got it. Got it. Cool. Yeah, because I was confused when I first learned that, but I guess that makes sense too. But yeah, anywho, the Annunciation is the first mystery of the joyful mysteries of the Rosary, and the whole scene of this mystery is when the Archangel Gabriel enunciates to the Virgin Mary that she's gonna give birth to the Son of God, to Jesus Christ, or that she's gonna bear Jesus Christ in her womb. There's a couple of theories as to like what was actually happening during the Annunciation. Like some people say she was fetching a pail of water when he appeared. Other people say that she was like reading and praying scriptures in her home. I don't think there's any, as far as I know, historical uh, like evidence that explicitly says what she was doing. So I think it's really up to hypothetical interpretation and traditions and word of mouth.
Well, it's part of the myth. Like it's the myth of Christ is like how this all happened, you know. So I would just go I would go with what you're into it because I've always seen it as like growing up I always saw it like her being woken up like she was asleep and the angel woke her up. So it really depends. There are different versions of this story. Does it really matter? Kind of, not really. The when you guys are reading the Bible, you have to understand that it's not a historical text. It's historical within itself, but it's not. There's a lot of myth in it. Like we have to understand that there is a such thing as Christian mythology. Um, and the reason why we don't call it Christian or folks don't call it Christian mythology is because Christians don't believe it's myth. Christians believe that it's true. But it's it's on the same wavelength as like reading about ancient Greek mythology. It's the same thing. I mean that's the way I see it. That's my praxis. That's the way I see it. These spirits exist, but when it comes to what actually happened, it's up to interpretation. It's all about word of mouth, right? So just yeah, that's just a little okay. Down. Okay, Voga off her soapbox. All right, here we go.
No, that's a great point because I mean, someone I follow on Instagram who I really love, the information he brings in is the biblical scholar Dan McClellan, and he was always challenging like disinformation and misinformation when it comes to biblical, scholarism, if that's the proper word. And it's interesting because he's a Mormon. I found out from someone who listens to our show. Uh, so I find that really interesting that that a Mormon is a biblical scholar and like so dedicated to kind of like debunking that information. And I'm really curious as to like how he became a biblical scholar and how he found his way into Mormonism. Anyways, totally off topic, but he has information on lots and lots of things and usually provides really great evidence and research to back up certain claims or dismiss certain claims. But anywho, the spiritual fruit with the Annunciation is that of humility because Mary had the free will to say no, to choose not to have, Christ, be Christ's surrogate, basically. But she chose to say yes. She chose not to deny God's will, even though she very much had the choice to. She humbly accepted this destiny, this mission that was assigned to her. And something that Brother Otis says in this entry is that, I'm quoting here: at the start of our spiritual journey, our two biggest enemies are inertia and pride. Inertia in the sense of laziness or the lack of discipline to persevere on our spiritual path, and pride that keeps us from seeing our sins and or counterproductive habits, and pride in the sense of thinking we're perfectly okay and don't need to listen to others' advice or correction. And so it's really highlighting Mary's humility in the sense that, like, she was scared, she was terrified, because again, angels are scary. That's why they're always prefacing, everything they do with "be not afraid." But Mary could have, again, denied this mission, but she chose not to. And so that's one spiritual fruit you can think of going into this mystery, is like, if you're praying about something, not even like praying to receive joy per se, but like praying like for help with being humble. Like, hey, like, I can tell I'm really stubborn. I know things need to change. Can you, Mary, or whoever you're praying to through the rosary, like, help me be more humble in these certain situations or in general? But what do you have to add on to this fruit?
Not very much. That's kind of how I sit on this mystery when it comes to praying. The thing about it is that I kind of lose a little bit of my humble nature, because I am immensely stubborn. I like to do things the way that I want to do them, because I believe that the only right way to do them is Voga's way.
Me
Um,
too. I think it's the Filipino in us.
it's the Philippine. Well, yeah, it's definitely my mother talking. It's kind of like that mentality where it's just like, if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Oh my
Um,
God, yes. Oh,
and if like you can't do it yourself, make sure that everyone is doing it the way that you would be doing it, which is a very,
right.
very unrealistic and unfair expectation. Um, so it's something that I've had to pray on, especially because a lot of the things that I don't do alone. Everything that I don't do alone. I don't do the podcast alone. I have a co-host, obviously. I don't do my small business alone. I have a business partner. Um, I have a lot of support, Um, and there's like a difference between being a leader and being kind of like, I guess, like a
A
general.
collaborator?
What?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say a difference between like being a leader versus like being humble enough to collaborate versus like
Yeah. Well,
dictating.
actually, kind of, because I think that being a leader is not a bad word. I think being a leader is, you're able to collaborate effectively. So that's one of my fault. Like, one of the things that I've had to kind of work on is making sure that, voices are heard, and that you take a step back when it's necessary. Make sure that your voice is heard. And collaborate effectively, making sure that even though you might be the smartest in the room, doesn't necessarily mean you have to act like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
terrible. That's a terrible way of like thinking, like, just kind of like carrying yourself. But at the same time, it's like everyone's going to think that they're the smartest in the room. That's just kind of how we carry ourselves. We want to believe that we are best for any situation that we put, we want to solve, but that's not necessarily true. Perspective is really important. And perspective has helped me solve problems that I've been completely stumped at trying to, figure out. Um, so if like you're kind of going through the same kind of issues where it's like you don't know where to step back, you don't know where to you don't know where your place is, because you feel like you belong in every place. You don't. Um, just kind of feel this is the perfect mystery to kind of contemplate on when it comes to being more human, like acting more human and letting people be human around you, giving grace to folks around you when you disagree, or things are happening the way that you don't expect them to happen or wouldn't want them to happen. Like, I don't want to be cliche, but everything happens for a reason, and the sequence of those things happening is happening for a reason, and it all works out. It always works out. So you'll always be able to figure it out, whether you do it alone or with like a group, and it's always better when you do it with support. And that's always something I had to always get used to. It was like, everything is always better if you do it with support, like let people help, you know, like give people the grace to help. So yeah, that's kind of like where I sit with humility is, is it's a very arrogant way of thinking when you think that, you know, your way is the way.
Hmm. Hmm. I want to bring in something like something I've really taken away from my training as a therapist is learning the difference uh, between cultural competency and cultural humility, and that's specifically concerning cultural identities and culture. But the difference between competence and humility, right, as a whole, like you can read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and take all the courses on a particular subject and feel competent in it. You can be competent in it. But where humility comes in is being humble in the sense that you're open to learning from others because you're not going to know every single piece of information. Like you may be competent in this field, but you may come to a workshop or meet somebody who is also competent in that field but who has wisdom or experience that they can share with you that might even alter the way that you understood some of the stuff you were previously competent about. And so humility is really all about being open to the unknown and being willing to be okay with being wrong and being willing to be okay with saying I don't know, being okay with saying I don't know, and I'm open to learning. I'm open to hearing more. I'm open to learning more, and taking that and receiving that information in. It can go a lot deeper than that, but I just wanted to bring that in because I think that's where pride comes in, is like us feeling so competent in believing that we know something to its core, and then the ego comes out when we're put in a situation with other people or another person where they're sharing stuff that they know about on the subject that we didn't, and then maybe that shadow aspect, maybe that shadow aspect of ours of like, oh, like, I'm dumb or I'm not good enough, or like, oh, this person knows more than me, like they must think they're a smart ass, like those parts within us get triggered, those egotistical parts, because we're not allowing ourselves to be humble enough to just admit like, I don't know this, and this person's sharing this information, this experience, this lived experience maybe with me, and I get to learn from this. So when you close yourself off from being humble, you're closing yourself off from so many experiences, from connecting with others, from being able to learn more for yourself. And so I think that's why humility is so important and why it is such a potent spiritual fruit. And there was something Brother Ada had said that I was going to read off of here. Um, he was saying earlier how like pride and inertia are like the obstacles to humility, and he was saying how people can be too proud to listen to others and discern how much they don't know. And he's saying if pride goeth before the fall, then indeed humility goeth before the rise. And so we really can't rise above until we allow ourselves to become and admit to being humble. Um, and so that's, like we just brought up, something you can pray for is just help with being humble, especially if you're aware of the fact that you can be stubborn, or aware that you feel intimidated when other people are sharing information, and you're feeling like maybe a sense of threat or a sense of fear or anxiety, like really exploring that and being open to understanding why that is. um okay, I think my therapist hat's done being on.
Okay. Yeah. Well, also with that said, if you ask me for my opinion, I'm going to give it. That's like, like I'm not like, yeah, humility is humility, but like if you're gonna ask me my opinion, I'm gonna give my opinion. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's give and take. Okay, so the next one, the next mystery, the next joyful mystery, the second one is the Visitation, and the Visitation is where Mary treks through the desert to visit her cousin, and the to help her cousin, to assist her cousin. And the fruit of this mystery is charity. And this is something that we should really kind of contemplate when meditating on this mystery, charity means a lot of things, right? Charity is it implies some sort of sacrifice, some sort of giving, right? Some sort of you're sacrificing a piece of yourself in some way to for the betterment of other people, for the betterment of the world, for the betterment of nature, for the betterment of your community in some way. And this is something that I've had to not had to. This is something that I've really honed in to this mystery, like just the spiritual fruit of this mystery specifically, is because I am a servant to my community. I really do feel like I am involved in my community as much as I possibly can be. In separate ways. I mean, not in separate ways, in different ways, and also in different communities. Like I serve my community in different ways. Like this podcast is one of the things that I use to serve my community. Being able to share my perspective and also hear other people's perspectives, and also have people on the platform to share their perspectives to the community. That's a way to kind of give the time and the energy. That's kind of what you're giving, is your time, your energy, yourself, to kind of just give that information, have that information out there, kind of share that perspective. But it also mentions in this book, if you guys are following along on page 34, when we meditate on this mystery, not only can it bring us into closer contact with the virtue of charity, it can also help us manifest prayers involving love, family, relationships, business, as well as romantic or social. Likewise, this meditation can help us become more aware of the interconnections of all life on the complex web of social, biological, and spiritual relationships. So this is like being able to manifest yourself being around a group of people, or being around someone that you care about. This is all about caring about somebody. This is all about sacrificing a piece of yourself because you genuinely care about someone. Like, this isn't just like lovey-dovey kind of love. This is true love. Like, this is platonic love. This is this is a love for a friend. This is love for your neighbor. This is love for your coworkers. This is true love, where it's not just specific to that person, it's specific to everything. It's everything in the world. You're giving yourself for the betterment of your environment, to the culture, to whatever it is. That's what this to me, this is what this mystery represents, is your role in making the world a better place, I guess, is where I'm trying to go. That's where I stand on this.
Yeah, and one thing too, like as you were mentioning, that she trekked through the desert to meet Elizabeth, who is pregnant with Saint John the Baptist, who's gonna be the one to baptize Christ. During this trek, Mary was already 3 months pregnant. So like, if that's not an act of love, like she should have been, she could have been worrying about herself and taking care of herself, knowing that she's carrying the Christ child Jesus. But no, she trekked through the desert to go help Saint Elizabeth in her time of need, despite already being herself 3 months pregnant with Christ. And that right there, I think, is just like the term coming to mind, Voga, as you were talking about, like love, is like unconditional love. Like there is no limit to it. There are no conditions. Like when true love is not the lovey-dovey romance love. It's that unconditional love, the unconditional love that Christ teaches. If Christ was here today in person, in manifest, he would be sitting with the meth addicts. He would be sitting with the sex workers like he used to. He would be even sitting with people that Vogue and I have spouted that we fucking hate, probably like Trump, like Republican. Like Christ will sit with every single person on earth because he has that unconditional love, that unconditional positive regard for each individual soul. And that's something that we should strive to have. And of course, there's so much nuance to that. And but that's the love that Christ teaches, is that giving that love despite the wrongdoings that person has committed, the ways we might view them as flawed or harmful, like being able, it's what allows, I can't remember where I read this recently, but it's like that unconditional love is what like Christian pastors demonstrate when they're going to prisons to preach and they're sitting across from someone who may have killed a child or was a domestic abuser, and be able to still hold space for that person because they're not seeing the wrongs they committed, but rather the deeper inner part of their soul that's like maybe seeking forgiveness or confessing, right? So and of course we're not, none of us are going to become Christ in our lifetime, so I'm not saying you need to love every single person in your life and have that same level of love, but it's what we should aspire to, like, at least let it inspire us as we work towards harboring as much unconditional love as possible.
When we're talking about like unconditional love for everything, I mean what I mean is like to your capacity. Like don't go out there trying to, because like in in the vision of Christians and the vision of folks who practice Catholicism, Mary was perfect. So and Christ was perfect. We are not perfect. Sit on these meditations sit on these mysteries based on what your capacity is. If you hate somebody, hate them. I'm giving you permission to fucking hate them because you have a reason to. But everything that you have a reason not to hate, everything that you have a reason to give unconditional love to, try your absolute best to give that, and that goes back to the first mystery about humility. It's like, where can you kind of, where do you fall short when it comes to giving someone the grace to talk about their opinion and letting them holding the space for them. I really do believe that going expecting folks to demonstrate unconditional love like clear across the board is, one, unfair, and two, unrealistic. So do the best that you possibly can, but also you're human, so like you're fallible, so just that's my little disclaimer.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, when I was still working at the bank, like as soon as I'd walk into work, like I lost my ability to have unconditional love to people because they would just get on my fucking nerves so easily. Like I fully admit that I would be a bitch to some people because I'd match their energy instead of taking the higher road and just, helping them with a straight face, Like I'm not fucking perfect. Just like Voga said, none of us are perfect, and we likely never will be during this lifetime that we have right now on Earth. But it doesn't mean that it's not
I'm pretty
something.
close. Speak for yourself.
um, I think you need to pray the Annunciation mystery one more time. Uh, but something that I like that Brother Otta brought in was what he labels like the relationship matrix. Like when we think of unconditional or spiritual love, like we see ourselves in this complex matrices of like our relationship to plants, our relationship to each other, our relationship to society. And I think that's really important, especially for us living in the West, but also in a global context, because I was just telling someone this today of how, Western hyper individualism, capitalism, white supremacy culture, these have all worked to separate ourselves from the collective and fostered this sense of like, oh, it's just me in this world. I'm going to worry about me and nothing else matters. And that has driven us so far from, indigenous and traditional ways of being in community and being able to repair ruptures. Like nowadays it's just cancel culture, which is something we're going to talk about at some point in a different episode as a whole thing. But like cancel culture and,
Well, I think a really big, I'm so sorry I interrupted you. But because it's just the thing that's popped in my head. I think a big reason why is because of capitalism. The reason why we're so individualized is because we want to protect our money, and we don't have a sense of community and sharing in our wealth because we have to protect our money. That's just the way that we survive,
Yeah, and capitalism and white supremacy are interdependent upon one another. And so until we can completely eradicate these systemic and oppressive structures and systems, that hyper individualism will continue to perpetuate in some capacity. But that's the importance of when we're focusing on charity and spiritual love, when we can really tap into that unconditional love, even if it's for a moment. There might be one day where you feel unconditional love towards whatever it is. It could be one person, it could be nature. And then the next day you might be struggling to even have unconditional love for a single plant. Like, again, remember that like healing is not linear. This spiritual journey that we're always on for the rest of our lives is not linear. It's just these are things to keep in mind that we should strive for and pray for, or petition for, whatever word you want to use. But like reading this and going over this with you, Voga, does make me think like this is probably now one of my favorite specific mysteries, because when I pray for the spiritual fruit or mystery of charity, like I always have always framed it in the sense of like giving myself to others, but not in the sense of seeing myself in the grand scheme of things and the relationship between all those things. As Brother Ada was describing, the interconnections of all life, social, biological, spiritual, da da da. I've always reverted to assuming this mystery just meant like of being of service to others, which is still important. But it, when I pray this mystery now, I'm thinking of how like that unconditional love in the vast web of all of life. It just hits different. And there's this really cool video on YouTube you can find called "The Power of 10." Have you seen it? So I can't remember if it's live action or if it's animated, but it basically starts, I think, with some people laying on a picnic blanket in a park, and then it keeps going to like the power of 10. So like it expands, and you see the city they're in, and then the state they're in, and then you see the Earth, and then like this solar system, and then the galaxies, and it goes out and out and out. And then once it reaches the outermost, it goes reverse, and so then you go back to those people on the blanket, and then it starts going into the hair, into their cells, into the atoms. And so it slowly like really makes you recognize like how both significant and insignificant we are, and just the vast web of life in which we exist. And I think if anyone listening to this is really wanting to get an idea of that interconnection of all things, definitely check out that Power of 10 video. If I can find the link, I'll include it in the show notes. But it definitely will give you a perspective on both how big and how small we are as beings on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. All right, do you want to move on to the next one?
Let's do it. So this is another favorite mystery of mine. The third joyful mystery is the Nativity of Jesus. I think Dan McClellan actually brought in that there's not proof that Jesus was like born in
a manger.
Some people want,
because like gross, ew.
Well, the whole point of that theory, though, or at least like the tradition, quote unquote, is that like Christ, who's both fully human and fully divine, chose to be born in such a low place to symbolize that like the highest divine things can still be found in places that we would not anticipate it.
Yeah, what was it? It's the King of Kings born in the most humblest of places, or something like that.
Something like that. But obviously the mythos that most of the world knows with Christianity is that they were born in a manger, which is still gross. It's where the animals eat and
still
sleep
gross.
and shit.
Yeah. And poop. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I'm just scanning this paragraph. So yeah, Brother Ada says the central to this mystery is the rags to riches trope that's inspired people of all ages and all times. Except in this case, it begins as riches to rags, because we're seeing like the King of Kings, as Voga said, be born in a filthy place. We have as Brother Ada says here, we have the King of everything allowing himself to be born into the worst and most disgusting situation imaginable. Yet his mission was so important that he maintained the detachment necessary to carry it through. And the spiritual fruit of this mystery, according to Brother Ada, is detachment, and having a healthy amount of emotional detachment to see a plan through to its completion. And so he says that.
Oh my God! That didn't even occur to me. I was just talking about being detached.
Yeah. So that just ties in. And so he says the Nativity is the completion of the pregnancy begun in the Annunciation. It's also the point at which the baby Jesus' physical body first manifested outside the womb and into the world. And so meditation on this mystery and its associated fruit can be instrumental, and I'm just reading straight from the book here, in both gaining this detachment without falling into derangement, and learning to focus one's mind without becoming distracted, and in hastening the physical manifestation of whatever's needed, whether that's money or food, etc., to sustain your current physical condition. Likewise, through this detachment, we can come to see what needs to be done in getting out of unfavorable situations and working ourselves into a position where we have more control over our lives. I really need to sit and read this through in full again, because again, when I traditionally pray this mystery, all I'm focusing on usually is like, oh, the divine can be found. The word, yeah, like I usually reframe the mystery as like balance between uh the mundane and the mystical, or the profane and the sacred, of like how those things are interdependent and how they can be found within each other in any place. Um, but I don't think I've ever looked at it in the way of with the fruit of detachment, even though I've read this how many times now, and the idea of how important it is to be able to detach ourselves from an idea of how we think something's going to end up, and rather focus on the process to get there. Because we can get so caught up in thinking of how we want something to be that we're not even taking the necessary steps or actions to actually even make progress towards that goal. Um, and so yeah, I really like that idea of the importance of detachment, and looking at that as a spiritual fruit, and also in the sense of like giving up control, because when we're too controlling about something, that too can be hindering us from getting what it is that we're praying for, what we want. And so being able to take, like I said, I love how we brought in the healthiness between detachment and derangement. It's like the same thing with like spiritual psychosis. It brings to mind for me of like how sure, angel numbers might mean something for you, but if every single day you're looking for certain numbers to dictate what your day might look like, or an omen, and then you falling into spiritual psychosis because you saw 666 and now you think the world's going to end tomorrow, like really finding that discernment, like what he brought up with I think it was in the Annunciation or whatever, of discerning between healthy detachment versus like being extremely detached. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this mystery?
But also at the same time, discernment in regards to, I mean, the detachment idea. This is the reason why because I've always seen it as detachment, being detached from the idea of, because the idea of the King of Kings being born in a manger needs to be detached from each other for it to make sense. Because the philosophy is that, um, Christ is all good, Christ is all whatever. Um, the discernment is important also with things that you are attached to. Um, Being able to distinguish what is important and detaching yourself from things that don't have to be important right now. That's something that I had to get really good at really fast. Is like what you mentioned just literally 30 seconds ago, is relinquishing control. Something that I had to make sure I had to get really good at is relinquishing control, making sure that I am not in control of everything that happens around me, because that's not the point. Everything is supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen. I do believe that I do have a hand in what thing, how my life turns out. But I also believe that a big part of it is fate. Like, there is a way things are going to happen that you had no idea was supposed to happen. That's the reason why we have magic. We have no idea what our spirits have, in store for us. So being slightly detached from the mundane and what we can and cannot control is why this mystery is so important. There is an aspect that is helping us believe that the spirits really do have our best interests at heart. The ones that actually, want to commune with you, they know exactly what you need, and they'll take care of it. That is, I think, a really important lesson in this mystery. When you're contemplating this mystery, is like kind of just, it's that, also that cliche of like, let go and let God, let go and let spirits. um because, like, when you hyper focus on something that you're not finding results, you're not manifesting the results, the reason why is because you're trying to. And that inherently can be the barrier from actually manifesting what you need, what you want. um
Yeah, and even just as we're going through each of these mysteries one by one, like I'm really seeing how they flow into one another, and like how each spiritual fruit kind of creates a scaffolding for the next, right? Because to be able to be willing to have detachment, you have to also have the humility, um, and ability to like be open to not knowing what's to come, rather than being in that state of control. And then when you're in that state of being able to harness unconditional love, or that spiritual charity, that spiritual love, I feel like that also plays into being more willing to be open to what's coming, because you can just have faith that, what's going to happen is for your best interest, or for the best interest of, the greater good. And each of these things falls into the next. Yeah, just I'm just really seeing this in a light that I hadn't before, even though, again, I've read this several times and have prayed the rosary God knows how many times. Um, yeah, I don't have anything else to add on to that mystery, though, if you wanted to um, speak anything else.
Well, I think the reason why is because you and I have never actually sat down and talked about each mystery individually and like analyzed each and every single one of them. Like we've never actually shared our perspectives. This is the first time we've ever done it. I think that's the reason why, and that's the reason why humility is so important, because perspective is so important. Um, because now you're seeing these in a different light. You're getting my perspective, I'm getting yours, and there's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I had the competency of knowing the mysteries of the rosary, but now I have the humility to be able to take everything that we're discussing now and integrate that and see it in an even newer light.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So next is the presentation in the temple. And is the fourth mystery. We're almost there, you guys. This is already the fourth mystery. There are 5 mysteries in each, okay? And if y'all look at the structure of a rosary, you'll see that there are 5 beads. That's where you pray these. We can, if you go back to our rosary episode, you'll understand kind of like the structure of the rosary. But this is the 4th. We're almost there. And this is the presentation at the temple. Okay, so 40 days after Jesus' birth, we move from the filth of the manger to a much cleaner place, the temple in Jerusalem. Let's do that again. The temple in Jerusalem. Here, Mary fulfills her obligation to Jewish law to be purified after giving childbirth. The temple this day is a scene for great things. Actually, let's just move on to the fruit. Okay, the mystery is obedience to divine law. Okay, so I've talked about this before. Obedience to divine law is, to me, subjective, because what does that actually mean? Now, this book goes into what it means to be obedient to divine law. This makes it really easy to think we're only talking about divine law as written in the Bible or any relevant pronouncements by the church. We have to bear in mind the divine law also includes the laws governing nature. That's really important to me, because God made those laws too. Gravity, inertia, photosynthesis, even the laws of human nature. Even the laws of human nature. That is where everyone needs to kind of really hone into. Okay? This is how I see this mystery, is the laws of human nature. We are all imperfect. So when meditating on this specific mystery, and the reason why this mystery is so important is divine law states, or divine law is defined as anything that the divine has created, right? The divine, in theory, has created you. You have your own law, your own law of operating, your own law of existing, right? And everyone's law is different. Everyone's way of living is going to be different. And abiding to those laws is what this is trying to be, giving the grace to human beings around you, being able to give the grace, having the humility to give grace to people as much as you possibly can, to your own capacity, having unconditional love, having the humility to have unconditional love to your own capacity, because you understand that is divine law. You see how these are all connecting to each other now? So this is the reason why the sequence of the rosary is so incredible, because there is a reason you meditate on certain mysteries for certain petitions. Like, this is a perfect mystery, or this is a perfect rosary, or this is a perfect set of mysteries to pray on if you're having issues with someone that you really care about. Like, if you're having like if you're having like some sort of like just like, I don't know, you have a quarrel with like a really good friend of yours. This is a really great set of mysteries to pray on to try to mend the problem or fix the problem. So, going back into it, that's the part that I want folks to really meditate on. The laws of human nature. What does that mean? Human nature means so many things, right? We sometimes we gaslight each other without knowing it. Sometimes um we gaslight ourselves. We kind of stand in our own way in different aspects. We stand in other people's way. We're human. Everything that is part of the human experience is what I'm trying to kind of like focus on. But also at the same time, like, I understand where this is coming. It's like, oh, there's also the law of nature, like making sure that you take care of, you abide by the laws of nature. You abide by the laws of spirituality, right? That goes back into God's law, the law of God. Like, spirituality is also part of what God has created. So being obedient to those things, the way things have been set, and making sure that you have the humility to abide by them.
Yeah, I've always reframed this one when I pray it, because I knew when they mentioned divine law in the book, in this book that we're talking about now, that like it was talking about, yes, what's written in the Bible, and the laws governing nature and everything we just covered. I've always reframed it to, and I guess this falls under the laws of human nature in the sense that like I've always reframed it as like when I'm praying for help to understand divine law for myself, like I'm praying for help for clarity, really, to understand like what is my purpose, what what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. When I think of divine law for the self, I think of what specifically was inscribed upon my soul when I was born or reincarnated or whatever that means in the end of things or beginning of things. Like, what does that mean for me? What does my divine law look like? And tying this back into the other mysteries, especially the one with the second mystery of the Visitation with spiritual love, when we really meditate on the interconnection between all things, including our relationships with one another, I feel like when we bring humility into that, and now thinking about divine law as laws of human nature, we can be more open to understanding people. I think what I'm doing is approaching it from a trauma informed lens, right? Like, so when I was taught therapy to how to apply therapy from a trauma informed perspective, it's always working with someone, with a client, and never questioning why are you this way, or like, or sorry, not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. And I that's coming to mind right now when I think of this mystery, right? Like, and we can apply it to ourselves, or if we're struggling in relationship with someone else, coworker, partner, whatever it may be, using that framework of like, okay, what are the laws of nature going on within yourself that is contributing to what's going on right now? How can I better understand that? And how can I better understand myself so we can figure out what's going on here, instead of immediately, jumping into pride and ego and labeling this person as neurotic or narcissistic or whatever we're perceiving them to be. Like, really trying to approach it from a place of compassion when we can, as Voga keeps bringing in, like, to the capacity that we can, to understand like what's going on for this person, what happened to you that is causing this to happen, and how am I playing into that? What can I do to help? And vice versa. Like, when we can have enough compassion to view each other as human beings that are just functioning through the biological ways that we were created to, I feel like that allows us to be more humble with understanding like what's going on, instead of immediately jumping into shit like cancel culture, or like labeling someone as good or bad, or like very binary either or thinking, rather than like both and holding multiple truths and realities. um so I just wanted to bring in that piece. But did you want to go ahead and read about what he in the book says we can use this mystery to pray for?
All this means that when we meditate upon this mystery, we're looking to pull water from a well that it runs very deep. We can appeal to this mystery to develop within ourselves the virtue of obedience to divine law, and likewise to help with our learning and application of the natural law and social sciences, engineering and mechanical work, and so forth. By extension, in this mystery can help us in matters of human law, authority relationships, and matters involving ethical or moral decisions. Ultimately, by coming to perceive the extensiveness of God's law and the vastness of the universe it governs, we can only be brought further into what some call the vision of glory.
I really like that when he says we're looking to pull water from a well that runs very deep. It makes me think of like Carl Jung's concept of like the collective unconscious and like things that we already know but don't consciously know, and being able to tap into that. Um, yeah, that's just a little thought that came to mind. What are some examples of what you might pray for with this? I know I kind of said some earlier, but what would you apply this to?
Gosh. Well, like I mentioned before, it's my example would probably be like if you are in a disagreement with somebody that you just can't seem to come to terms with, praying on this to help you understand, maybe help you gain more perspective, maybe help you gain the perspective that you couldn't come to before because feelings were involved or words were said. This is a really one this is a great one to kind of just like sit and like, what am I missing? What is something that I'm missing that I just don't understand? Because I think the reason why we're at odds at each other is because we don't understand each other. So maybe I can do the work to help understand where they're coming from. That's kind of what popped into my head first.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, this spiritual fruit I feel like is like so multifaceted, and I mean all of them are very multifaceted in what they can be applied to, but especially this one because I mean it's like divine law has no hard and fast like definition of what that encompasses. So this is a very very broad one, and I mean like he even mentioned that you can just use it to help you or pray for this fruit to help you understand, learning and applying certain things. So maybe if you're struggling to understand how something works, because again, if that falls under, human nature or whatever type of nature, so maybe students or like what Voga brought in, trying to understand somebody else. Um, yeah. All right. Should we move on to our last mystery of the joyful mysteries? All right. Number 5, the fifth and final joyful mystery of the Rosary is the finding in the temple. So this is fast forwarding 12 years, and now we're with Mary and Joseph in Jerusalem. So Christian mythology says that after they left, which was presumably by caravan, as it was a pilgrimage and their safety in numbers, it took 3 days to realize they'd left Jesus behind in Jerusalem. I have so many questions when I think of this. I'm just like, is he separate in the caravan? Like, do you not have him with you? Like 3 days until you realize where the fuck is my child? Um, but as tradition states, it was no fault of their own. It was God's plan. So anywho, they go back to Jerusalem.
That's negligence. I'm not buying it. That's negligence.
They
I'm so sorry. Like we can sit here and say that Mary was perfect all we want, but that is
um
negligence.
Yeah, yeah, that was something for sure. Anywho, they go back to Jerusalem and they're relieved because they find Jesus safe and sound. Once again, they're back in the temple. They're astonished to find him confounding the doctors and scholars of the Jewish law. When asked about this, the preteen Jesus simply stated that he, quote, must be about my father's business. Mary didn't understand, but she kept the word in her heart while her son, quote, grew in favor with God and man. As we
Oh
unpack
my
this
god.
mystery.
You know what? Sorry.
No, you know what?
you know what it's giving? My father will heal about this. That's what it's giving. Do you know
As
who
we
my
unpack
father is?
as we unpack this mystery, we can find that the joyful mysteries are marked by emotional lows leading to spiritual highs. Um, let's see. So skipping forward a bit. Um, the fear and anxiety of losing your son, leading to the high of seeing him outsmart the greatest scholars in the big city. And so this pattern teaches us a lesson, namely the lesson that in the early stages of our own spirituality, it's through giving up parts of our old selves that we begin to see through to new life. And so the spiritual fruit of this mystery is turning or conversion to Christ's word, conversion to Christ's word, or turning towards Christ. And when we meditate on this mystery, we can appeal to it for conversion of ourselves to a deeper following of Christ, and likewise that of our loved ones, which I'm going to add my own nuance to that in just a second. He continues to say, on a deeper level, we can appeal to this mystery for breaking away of ignorance in ourselves and others, for opening our eyes to realize our proverbial, this is an ableist phrase. I want to say when you say blind spots, that is ableist. An alternative would just be, growth edges or things that you may be ignorant to. Just want to name that. But the author says proverbial blind spots, and realize our options for self-improvement, for overcoming and or healing our emotional weaknesses, and for helping others come around to see our point of view. So not necessarily convincing them, but at least helping them to see and understand where we're coming from. And remember, this ties back into the previous mystery of, understanding divine law, how each other's minds work, how our own minds work. So the nuance I wanted to add was, rather than like convert, I'm very apprehensive with like the term or phrase like conversion Christ's word. I usually reframe it when I'm praying as like, help me to become more Christ-like. I just feel like conversion holds such a like heavy connotation. And so I see it as just like, help me to be more like Christ, not like you have to convert to him like from whatever previous beliefs you have, or devote your entirety to him, but rather, again, just how can I act more in this moment or in life in general, like how Christ would. Yeah. Do you have anything to add on this one, Voga?
I was gonna say the exact same thing. It's like converting Christ's word means to me is to act like a good person, and that's under the assumption that Christ was 100% a good person. But if we want to talk about if Christ was someone who was fallible or imperfect, then you kind of already are. I don't know. It's difficult for me to put Christ on a level where he's better than me. Which is, I don't know, it's strange. Like my interpretation of Christ has changed a lot. I know that there is, or my relationship with Christ has changed a lot. There is a certain amount of veneration that I have for him. It's not very prominent in my practice. This mystery is difficult because how I see it is just trying to be the best person that you possibly can be. Because that's how it's interpreted, more or less. But the wording is kind of clumsy. In my opinion, to most some won't see it that way. So your conversion to doing good, being good, is I think the lesson here. This is kind of like praying on this would be like, let's use my past example, with like you being in a fight with a friend of yours. Like, okay, so you prayed and you understand what the perspective is. You understand where maybe you went wrong, or maybe you understand where the conversation went wrong. Now is the time to be like, what can I do now to make sure that everyone is okay at the end of the day? What can I do what is the solution in regards to making sure that everyone feels good? What can we do to alleviate the situation? That's kind of how I see it. But yeah, you're right. Like the wording in this is tough because it implies conversion. It implies devotion, and I don't want folks to really see it that way, because some folks who listen to us don't have a relationship with Christ. Not like you do, and obviously like me, who is I don't have a very I have a complicated relationship with Christ. But anyways, So yeah, that's just kind of how I see it. I think it's difficult, and I think it's really if you decide to meditate on these mysteries and you decide to do these um these prayers, like I think it's important for you to understand what you're saying and why you're saying them, but also kind of feel them out and modify them so they make sense to you. That's what I do. Because to me, this just means to do your best to be a good person. I think that's just the culmination of the previous four mysteries. Is like, what do you need to try to be the best person you possibly can be, right? Humility, charity, uh, understanding the way things work, right? And et cetera, et cetera. And then just like the culmination of all those things make you the best person you possibly can be.
Yeah, I think a great word to substitute potentially conversion with is like transmute. Like, how do I transmute this view I have, or how do I transmute this behavior I have to be more like, you know, something that Christ might do? How can I imitate that, or alchemize that, rather than like just yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the word conversion. It just makes me think too much of like evangelical Christianity trying to convert anyone who doesn't think like them. And maybe that's my own baggage, but that's just something I want to offer for anyone who also maybe struggles with that concept or that phrase. Um, but yeah, that covers all five joyful mysteries of the Rosary.
Yes, ma'am. All five joyful mysteries of the Rosary. That's the first episode of this series where we talk about the mysteries of the Rosary. This is gonna be a cool one. I think folks are gonna have a lot to learn from our perspectives. If you guys have a chance to get your hands on these books, please do. They're very helpful to me in my practice, especially for someone who didn't grow up Catholic. This is very helpful. These sources are very helpful. So yeah, that was fun. That was I think needed for not just for the episode but also for us. Where it's like, oh, we really got to analyze each and really talk about like how we saw them. I think that was important. I liked it.
Yeah, it makes me excited to do the
The
sorrowful and
luminous, we'll
glorious
see.
and
Yeah,
potentially the
we'll see
luminous.
about
We'll
luminous.
see about those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the next ones are sorrowful. So that's gonna be a fun time. Those are some good ones.
Those are some good ones. I mean, obviously, really deep.
Well,
and,
they are
and
really
I guess
introspective.
dark to an
So
extent.
that's
But
the reason why I think they're really important. It's because it deals a lot with death and it deals a lot with reflection, right? And how the I don't know if it's Wiccan, but like it's not really Wiccan, but like kind of like the newer concept of shadow work. It's not Wiccan. I don't even know why I said that. That's not a Wiccan. That's not a Wiccan concept. But yeah. So there's a lot of like reflection and being able to understand yourself on a deeper level. Letting aspects of yourself die and understanding death on a physical level, but also on a spiritual level. It's going to be a good episode. Yeah. So, if y'all, like I said in the beginning of this episode, if y'all want to see our video versions of these episodes, catch them on Spotify, which I thought was so cool. Now that we're able to have a video podcast on Spotify. Also, if you don't have a Spotify account, that's totally fine. These videos are also going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is the Red Text. It's still there. So yeah. Anything else before we?
No, but I mean, again, yeah, Spotify's free, and that's probably our most widely used platform. I think from our analytics that show where most of our audience tunes into us from. So, and we appreciate reviews on anything: Google Podcast, Apple, Spotify. So again, if you haven't yet and you have been enjoying the content that we put out, again, even though we don't capitalize off of it, at least yet, every review counts, and it helps get the word out about this show and hopefully extend its reach to people who may be desiring to hear this type of information, or maybe people who really need to hear it to get back into their spiritual game. So yeah, Spotify's free. I mean, ads are a pain in the ass, but again, if that's an option that you have available to you to listen to us, especially in a video format, definitely go ahead and support that. Otherwise, like Vogue said, YouTube's there. Um, yeah, I think that's all that I gotta say.
Cool. I'm gonna do the lead out because I am craving pasta and I need to go make it. So, with that said, my name is Voga, and sorry. With that said, my name is Voga, and I am Voga Illumiscente de Ville,
And I'm Rai, aka the Mestizo Mystic.
and we will see you guys on our next Unholy Communion.
Bye.
Bye.